Did you know that 50% of local ecosystems could be reshaped by climate change by the year 2100? Now that's a staggering revelation, isn't it? But what does that mean for our gardens? Let's dive right in. Our gardens are microcosms of the natural world, teeming with life and diversity. But as the planet heats up, these verdant sanctuaries are under threat. Rising temperatures, shifting rainfall patterns, and increasingly frequent extreme weather events are altering the very fabric of our garden ecosystems. Imagine for a moment a garden in the height of summer. The sun is shining, the flowers are in full bloom, and the air is filled with the buzzing of bees. But what would happen if that summer sun grew hotter, and hotter still? Plants would wilt, ponds would evaporate, and those buzzing bees, they might just disappear. And it's not just about heat. Changes in rainfall are equally impactful. Some regions are experiencing heavier downpours, leading to waterlogged soils and damaged plants. In contrast, other regions face drought, leaving gardens parched and lifeless. Then there's the issue of extreme weather events. Storms, floods, heat waves, cold snaps. They're all becoming more common and more severe. Each of these can wreak havoc on a garden in a matter of hours, undoing months or even years of careful cultivation. The changes are not just aesthetic, they affect the biodiversity within our gardens. The insects, birds, and other wildlife that depend on the plants we grow are also at risk. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's happening right now, in gardens around the world. And it's not just a problem for professional gardeners or farmers, it's an issue for anyone with a backyard or balcony garden too. So, what can we do? The answer lies in resilient gardening strategies. Practices that can help our gardens not just survive, but thrive in the face of climate change. In the next segments, we'll delve into what these strategies look like and how you can implement them in your own green space. But for now, remember this: climate change is here, and our gardens are on the front lines. Let's arm them with resilience. So, what exactly is resilient gardening? Resilient gardening is the practice of cultivating a garden that can withstand changing weather conditions, particularly those brought on by climate change. It's about creating a garden that can bounce back from extreme weather events, be it a heavy downpour, a prolonged drought, or an unexpected frost. Central to resilient gardening are three key principles. First, plant diversity. It's important to cultivate a variety of plants, as different species respond differently to changing conditions. This means your garden will have a better chance of surviving and thriving, no matter what the climate throws at it. Second, efficient water management. This involves practices that conserve water and make the most of natural rainfall. Lastly, maintaining soil health. Healthy soil is the foundation of any resilient garden. It's about feeding the soil, not just the plants, to promote a balanced ecosystem that can support a wide range of plant life. Resilient gardening isn't just about survival, it's about creating thriving, sustainable spaces in our changing climate. Choosing the right plants is the first step towards a climate-resilient garden. But how do you know which plants are right? The answer lies in understanding your local climate and selecting plants that are adapted to it. In general, drought-tolerant plants are a smart choice. These plants, often native to arid regions, have evolved to survive with less water. Examples include the yucca with its deep roots and waxy leaves to retain moisture, or the silver sage, which reflects sunlight with its silvery foliage to keep cool. Heat-tolerant plants are another wise pick. These are plants that can withstand high temperatures and intense sunlight. Consider the vibrant lantana, which not only thrives in heat but also attracts beneficial pollinators with its colorful flowers, or the hardy agave, a desert native with a high tolerance for both heat and drought. But what if you live in a region with extreme weather patterns such as heavy rains or frost? Here, you'll want to opt for plants that are resilient to these conditions. The red-twig dogwood, for example, is an excellent choice for wet areas, while the snow and summer plant is amazingly frost-tolerant. Selecting the right plants also means considering their growth habits. Some plants, like the creeping thyme, are excellent ground covers that prevent soil erosion. Others, like the sunflower, have deep roots that help improve soil structure. It's also helpful to remember that diversity is key. A diverse garden is a resilient garden. Try to include a variety of plants that bloom at different times, provide food and habitat for wildlife, and offer different benefits to the soil and surrounding environment. Lastly, don't overlook the value of native plants. These are plants that have naturally evolved in your area and are well adapted to local conditions. They're often more resilient and require less maintenance than non-native species. Remember, the right plant in the right place is the key to a resilient garden. So do your research, consider your local climate, and choose plants that are not only beautiful but also climate resilient. A garden's health starts from the ground up. Soil, often overlooked, is a garden's best friend and most vital resource. It's the foundation where our plants grow, where they find nutrients, and where they take up water. So let's talk about soil health. First, let's dive into improving soil health. The key to a fertile garden is rich and diverse soil. The soil is a living thing, teeming with bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms that help plants absorb nutrients. We can encourage this biodiversity with composting. Kitchen scraps, lawn cuttings, and other organic waste can be turned into compost, a nutrient-rich soil conditioner. This not only reduces waste, but also feeds your soil with essential nutrients. Then there's mulching. A layer of mulch on your garden beds can work wonders. Mulch protects the soil from drying out, helps to maintain a consistent soil temperature, and as it breaks down, it adds nutrients back into the soil. So, don't forget to mulch your garden beds. It's like a cozy blanket for your soil. Now let's address water management. Water is life, but in a changing climate it might not always be readily available. Rain gardens are a great solution here. These are planted depressions that collect rainwater runoff, allowing it to soak into the ground. They're not just practical, they also add a beautiful, lush element to your garden. Another handy tool for water management is a water barrel. Collecting rainwater in a barrel is a simple and effective way to conserve water. This collected water can then be used during drier periods, ensuring your garden always gets the hydration it needs without wasting this precious resource. So, to sum it up, the secret to a resilient garden lies in the dirt beneath our feet and the way we manage our water. By focusing on soil health through composting and mulching, and managing water with rain gardens and water barrels, we can create a garden that thrives in our changing climate. Healthy soil and efficient water management are the foundations of a resilient garden. To truly be resilient, a garden must also be sustainable. This isn't just about weathering the storm, it's about creating an environment that thrives while reducing its impact on the wider world. This is where sustainable gardening practices come into play. Consider companion planting. This is the art of pairing plants that benefit each other, creating a symbiotic relationship that boosts growth and deters pests naturally. Imagine, for instance, planting marigolds amongst your tomatoes to deter nematodes. Speaking of pests, let's talk natural pest control. It's not about eradicating pests completely, but managing them. Introducing beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings can keep pest populations under control without resorting to harmful chemicals. And that's the key, reducing chemical use. Opt for organic fertilizers and compost. Remember, a healthy garden is a balanced garden. It's one that respects the natural ecosystem and works with it rather than against it. Sustainable practices not only make your garden more resilient but also contribute to a healthier planet. Climate change is a dynamic problem requiring dynamic solutions. As gardeners, we must be nimble, ready to pivot and adapt our strategies to meet the ever-changing conditions that climate change presents. The weather patterns we once knew may no longer hold true. Droughts may become more frequent, storms more intense, and seasonal shifts less predictable. One of the most effective ways to navigate these fluctuations is to stay informed about local climate trends. Knowledge is power, after all. By understanding what changes are happening in your area, you can better anticipate and plan for the challenges that lie ahead. For instance, if your region is experiencing more frequent heat waves, it might be time to consider adding more drought-tolerant plants to your garden or implementing shade structures to protect your plants from the intense sun. On the other hand, if heavy rains and flooding are becoming the norm, consider incorporating rain gardens or other water management strategies to prevent waterlogging and soil erosion. Another crucial aspect of adapting to changing conditions is continual learning. Stay curious and open to new information. Participate in local gardening groups, attend workshops, and keep abreast of the latest research on climate-resilient gardening. This will equip you with the tools and knowledge to make informed decisions about your garden. It's also important to remember that change can be a slow process. Don't be discouraged if your garden doesn't immediately transform into a resilient oasis. Small steps can lead to significant results over time. Perhaps you start by replacing a few water-thirsty plants with drought-tolerant ones, or by introducing a composting system to improve your soil health. Every change, no matter how small, contributes to the overall resilience of your garden. In the face of climate change, remaining adaptable and resilient is key. Our gardens are living, breathing ecosystems that will need to evolve alongside our changing climate. It's up to us to guide them through this transition, making adjustments along the way as we learn and grow with our gardens. Remember, Resilient gardening is a journey, not a destination. Together we can make our gardens a beacon of hope in the face of climate change.